What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another Friday video. Today I want to get a little bit scientific. It has been a few months since I have tested my tap water, which I like to do every 6 months or so just to see if anything has changed. Today specifically I'm going to focus on my general hardness and carbonate hardness that is coming out of the tap, and I do also want to check the GH and KH in all of my tanks. So let's jump right in and let's see if we need to make any adjustments anywhere. Alright, so the first thing I want to test is going to be my tap water. I kind of want to set that as the base before I test any of my tanks. And to do that, first off, I'm going to be using the Tetra Easy Strips, which measure nitrates, nitrites, total hardness, total chlorine, alkalinity, and pH. So right offhand, it looks like chlorine levels, or look at chlorine levels first. It looks like about 1 part per million of chlorine, which is not much, but it's still enough to harm your fish. So I definitely still need to use dechlorinator. And let's see, just to make note, pH is sitting right around 7.2. Alkalinity is right about 80. My total hardness, or my GH, general hardness, is sitting right about 75. Maybe, yeah, right about 75. And then my nitrates are pretty much non-existent, and there actually is some nitrate in my water, which is interesting. There's probably about 10 parts per million there. Alright, so now I'm going to use the liquid test kits for the GH and KH, and I'm terrible at filling these API vials to the line, so I have a clear pipette which is clean, and that way I can just suck out the water and drop that right into there without worry. Let me just go ahead and say that it took me a little bit of time between reading the instructions and doing a little bit of Googling to figure out exactly how to do this. So here is pretty much the simplified version. So pretty much what you're doing with both the KH and the GH test, you're putting a single drop in, shaking the vial, putting another drop in, shaking the vial again, and you're pretty much doing this a good number of times. With the KH, you want it to go from blue to yellow, and the number of drops that it takes is going to tell you exactly what your KH is. And then for the general hardness, you want it to go from orange to green. Alright, so we are at 4 drops and it has gone yellow. So if you look at the sheet that comes with your drops, at 4 drops you are at 71.6 parts per million. Which, comparing that to the result I got with the test strips, which was right about 80 parts per million, I guess that goes to show that the test strips are at least accurate there with the KH. Let's see how it does with the general hardness. Alright, so big goof on my part. I'm going to have to start this one over. I don't know if you can tell that the water level is lower now than it was when I started, which means somewhere along the line I lost water. Here it is all over the counter here. So let me get a clean tube and we'll start the GH over again.
A few moments later.
Alright, so on drop number 7, we have a vial that has turned green. So referring back to the chart, at 7 drops, we are looking at about 125 parts per million of general hardness, which is right about the same place the test strip put it, which was right between 75 and 150 is where it was kind of looking. So that goes to show those test strips do work pretty well. Alright, so now that we know where my tap water is sitting, let's go ahead and test the general hardness and the carbonate hardness of all of my tanks. So the first tank I want to go ahead and test the GH and KH out on is my Paludarium tank. Since this tank is essentially a black water tank and it has a lot of botanicals in it, I want to see exactly how that has affected the GH and the KH, especially since considering the water coming out of my tap doesn't have much to begin with. Alright, so after finishing that up, the Paludarium's carbonate hardness turned out to be 53.7 parts per million, and the general hardness came out to 71.6 parts per million. So that puts this tank in the very soft water category with low alkalinity, which is perfect for the fish that I have in here, being that it is Apistos and Tetras. So I guess we can call this tank a success on those points alone, at least. Which would also explain why the Apistos seem to be so prolific breeding in here. And I don't know if you can see the Tetra is kind of acting up right now. They're kind of all up front waiting for food. But the Reed Tetras have actually been showing some signs of spawning. Same for the Neon Tetras and the Embers. So I guess everything is good in this tank. But I'll go ahead and test the rest of the tanks and see where everything stands. Alright guys, so those are my numbers. I did double check the KH on the 40 breeder just to make sure, since it did come out so low. But after 2 different attempts, it came out the same, so I'm sticking with that number. Which is not really that big of a problem since it is a South American tank, just like the Paludarium. And there is a whole bunch of wood and leaf litter in that tank too. And since all the fish are South American, it's really not an issue. And they are all breeding and happy in there, so I'll leave it be. Let me know down in the comments how often you guys check your tap water and how often you guys check your tank water. And as always, remember to hit that like button. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.